A simple question destroys the entire official narrative: if it rained for 40 days. Where is that water now? We are not talking about puddles in the garden. We are talking about oceans capable of submerging mountains of almost 9,000 meters. The mathematics are brutal. You need to add triple the current water of all the seas to cover the Everest. That amount of liquid cannot evaporate into space without leaving a trace. Thermodynamics categorically forbids it. For centuries, theologians and scientists have avoided this uncomfortable question that destroys their favorite theories. But there is an answer as old as the Bible itself, and it is more terrifying than any modern fiction. The secret is not in the sky from where it supposedly fell, but in the depths from where it actually emerged. Genesis reveals that the fountains of the Tehom were opened, the great abyss that exists under the earth's crust. The word Tehom in Hebrew does not mean puddle or lake. It describes an underground ocean of monstrous dimensions. If we accept that the water ascended from below, physics forces us to conclude that it descended to the same place. This means that we walk on a planet that is hollow in its interior, saturated with water at unimaginable pressures. Modern science mocked this idea for decades until geologists found something disturbing. In the year 2014, researchers detected ringwoodite in the Earth's mantle at 600 kilometers of depth. This strange mineral works like a molecular sponge, capturing water in quantities that defy human imagination. Current calculations suggest that under our feet there exists enough water to triple the volume of the oceans. The Bible said it 3,000 years ago. Science confirmed it just a decade ago with seismic technology. But if the floodwater returned to those underground chambers, what else remained trapped in that violent descent? Here, geology meets demonology at an intersection that few dare to explore completely. We need to go back to the origin of the problem. Why was a flood of planetary proportions necessary in the first place? The answer is in the B'nai Elohim, a Hebrew expression that literally means the sons of God. These were not prophets or holy men. They were celestial entities with physical bodies and superhuman capabilities. Genesis records that these beings saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and they took them as wives. This innocent phrase hides the cosmic crime that forced the Creator's hand toward the most severe judgment ever executed. From those forbidden unions between different dimensions were born the Nephilim, hybrids that should not exist. Modern translation calls them giants, but they were much more than tall men with thyroid problems. They possessed enormous strength, forbidden knowledge inherited from their fathers, and a corrupt nature, impossible to redeem. The Book of Enoch, although not canonical, preserves chilling details about these 200 watchers who descended. They met on Mount Hermon and swore a blood pact to consummate their rebellion against the established order. Azael taught men the metallurgy of weapons and women the art of seduction through cosmetics. Semyaza revealed the secrets of magical roots and enchantments that opened the doors to ancient sorcery. Other watchers shared forbidden astronomy, predictive astrology, and knowledge that accelerated the moral corruption of humanity. The Nephilim used this wisdom stolen from heaven to establish tyrannies of terror over the antediluvian nations. Violence was not occasional, but systematic. Every human thought was corrupted from its genesis to its conclusion. The earth groaned under the weight of this genetic abomination that contaminated not only humans, but animals. That is why Noah is described as perfect in his generations. His DNA was intact when the rest was corrupted. The flood was not a divine tantrum. It was a planetary sterilization operation to preserve pure human genetics. But the judgment had a second function just as important: to create a prison for the architects of this corruption. The Nephilim died drowned, their gigantic bodies buried under layers of sediment that turned into strange fossils. But their spirits, being hybrids, with no place in the created order, were left wandering like today's demons. The Watchers, however, received a different punishment because their crime was premeditated and executed with full consciousness. 2 Peter and Jude confirm that they were thrown into Tartarus, prisons of darkness, until the day of judgment. Tartarus is not an abstract Greek concept. It is a physical location in the abyssal depths of our planet. When the water descended violently toward the interior, after redistributing the world topography, it sealed these natural prisons. The flooded caverns of the deep mantle became maximum security cells with unbreakable liquid bars. The pressure at those depths is so extreme that it would crush nuclear submarines like empty soda cans, perfect for containing entities that need physical, as well as spiritual, restriction until the end of times. Job asks rhetorically if anyone has seen the gates of the abyss or walked by the springs of the sea. It is not poetry. It is literal geography of a world with underground architecture that does not appear on any official map. Psalm 104 describes how God established limits to the water so that it does not cover the inhabited earth again. These limits are not invisible. They are the new ocean depths created when the earth's crust was redistributed. Before the flood, the topography was radically different. Lower mountains, less deep valleys, less extensive seas. The verse explicitly says that the mountains rose and the valleys descended when God reorganized them after the cataclysm. The massive weight of the water collapsed entire sections of the ancient crust, creating current ocean trenches. Simultaneously, the released pressure pushed upward the mountain ranges that we call the Himalayas, Andes, and Rockies. The water did not magically evaporate. It simply found accommodation in these new abysses that did not exist before the judgment. But a significant fraction descended deeper still toward the system of caverns that we now know exists. The ringwoodite acts as forensic evidence of a cosmic crime committed approximately 4,500 years ago. Every drop of water we drink today passed through that event. It carries the molecular memory of the most severe judgment in history. The hydrological cycle recycles the water constantly, but the main reservoir remains hidden in the belly of the planet. This turns the Earth into something more than a rock with life on the surface. It is an active and guarded prison. Legends of underground civilizations are not New Age fantasy. They are distorted cultural memory of this biblical truth. From Tibet to Peru, from Egypt to Sumer, all ancient cultures speak of an inhabited underworld, Agartha, Shambhala. The Egyptian Duat, the Sumerian Abzu, different names for the same geographical and spiritual reality. Modern occultists search desperately for these entrances because they intuit that forbidden knowledge and power is hidden there. But if we followed the scriptures instead of esoteric fantasies, we would understand that opening those doors would be catastrophic. The apocalypse prophesies that in the last days the bottomless pit will be opened and locusts with power of scorpions will rise. This is not poetic metaphor. It is a literal description of a physical liberation of what has been contained under pressure. The chained watchers await that moment, conscious of every second that passes in the total darkness of the mantle. The darkness down there is not absence of electric light. It is absence of light in any spectrum of the known universe. The pressures are so extreme that the rock itself flows like hot plastic in imperceptible geological movements. However, science has discovered extremophile bacteria living in these conditions that should be absolutely impossible. If bacterial life survives there, how much more would beings originally designed to exist in celestial dimensions resist? The Watchers do not need oxygen or sunlight. Their metabolism operates under physical laws that we barely begin to understand. They are conscious, they are furious, and they are counting every rotation of the planet until their sentence is finally fulfilled. Meanwhile, the spirits of their Nephilim children wander the surface looking for bodies to inhabit temporarily. This is the real theological reason for demonic possession. Spirits without a body searching desperately for physical experience. They have no place in heaven because they are abomination. They have no rest in Sheol because they are not completely human. They exist in an ontological limbo, living testimonies of the greatest genetic error ever perpetrated against creation. Every significant earthquake could be interpreted as the movement of these entities, testing the strength of their chains. The strange noises recorded in the sky and under the sea could be echoes of an underground world that science ignores. The United States Navy has confirmed transmedium objects that enter and exit the ocean without apparent friction. If there are bases or portals on the seafloor, these objects do not come from outer space, but from the deep interior. We have been looking at the stars, searching for extraterrestrial life while we ignore what dwells under the ground. The connection between UFO phenomena and the underground world is constant in leaked classified reports. Perhaps some of these objects are technology developed by the Nephilim before being destroyed by the water. Or worse, technology that the surviving descendants of the giants continue using in their underground shelters, because there is the disturbing possibility that not all the Nephilim died drowned in the flood. Some could have used the knowledge stolen from the Watchers to build shelters in deep caverns. This would explain the impossible artifacts found in coal strata that supposedly are millions of years old. Mal-manufactured objects with precision found where no technological civilization should have existed. They are remnants of the antediluvian civilization that reached technological heights through forbidden angelic knowledge. That civilization was erased from the surface, but could have survived fragmented in the dark depths. Deep drilling expeditions have reported inexplicable anomalies, temperatures that drop when they should rise, empty spaces where there should be solid rock, metallic sounds recorded at depths of several kilometers. In 1989, the Soviets abruptly stopped the Kola project after drilling 12 kilometers. Official reports speak of unexpected temperatures, but rumors speak of screams and presences that terrorize the engineers. The complete data was never published. The project was closed and the site was left abandoned as a silent warning. Perhaps they touched something that should not have been touched. They awakened something that was better left asleep in its aquatic prison. Deep ocean exploration faces the same problem. There are zones that seem deliberately avoided by governments. Ocean trenches with thousands of meters of depth that have never been mapped completely with current technology. What are they protecting, or what are they avoiding waking up in those depths that connect with the mantle's cavern system? The great biblical abyss is not an abstract theological concept. It is a geological feature documented by science. The only difference is that science calls it the mantle transition zone and the Bible calls it Tehom. Both describe the same phenomenon, water trapped in massive quantities under the solid Earth's crust. The crucial theological difference is that the Bible explains what else is trapped there besides water. Philippians mentions three categories of beings: those in heaven, on earth, and under the earth. It does not refer to dead in graves, it refers to conscious beings with the capacity to recognize divine authority. This is the vertical cosmology of the Bible: heaven above, humanity in the middle, chained rebels below. The flood reorganized this spatial hierarchy, assigning to each category its corresponding territory with physical borders. We received the reorganized surface to prosper, they received the abyss to await their final sentence. This separation has maintained a relative balance for millennia, but the prophecies indicate that it will not last forever. Apocalypse describes the exact moment when the angel with the key will open the bottomless pit. Then smoke will rise as from a giant furnace, and the distinction between surface and underworld will collapse. The limits that God established after the flood will be removed, and the final conflict for the territory will begin. This is not ethereal spiritual war in abstract concepts, it is physical war for the occupation of this specific planet. The Watchers lost the first round and were confined, but the final combat has not yet been fought. The battlefield is already prepared, the armies are positioned, only the floodgate needs to be opened. Understanding where the floodwater is understanding the structure of the board where this cosmic game is played. Every drop in that underground ocean is a reminder that divine justice is real, physical, and permanent. It did not evaporate to the sky in a harmless natural cycle. It retreated to the interior as a stored arsenal. The next time you feel an earthquake, remember that you could be feeling the movement of ancient prisoners testing their chains. The next time you see the calm ocean, remember that it is just the surface lid of terrifying depths. We live in the thin shell of a planet that is half maximum security prison and half prepared battlefield. The water's down there, the Watchers are down there, and the remnants of the Nephilim also wait below. Modern geology is barely beginning to confirm what the ancient texts have declared for millennia. Oceans in the Earth's mantle are not a scientific curiosity. They are forensic validation of the biblical flood narrative. Every discovery in deep seismology is one more piece of the puzzle that the ancients had already solved. The question is no longer if the flood happened, but when the seals that keep the abyss closed will break, because that day will come. It is prophesied in detail, and humanity will discover that its most primitive fears had a real basis. The monsters under the bed are not childish metaphor. They are genetic memory of when giants walked upon us. The terror of the abyss is not irrational phobia, it is instinctive wisdom that there are things better left where they are. We have built civilizations deliberately ignoring what sustains those civilizations from below. We have drilled, explored, and profaned, without considering that some doors have locks for valid reasons. Scientific curiosity could be our greatest flaw when it comes to limits established by the Creator himself. There is knowledge that is not forbidden by whim, but because possessing it guarantees our inevitable destruction. The Watchers knew it and shared it anyway, and the result was the moral collapse of a civilization. We are repeating the same pattern, searching for forbidden secrets, manipulating genetics, rejecting established limits. The difference is that this time there will be no water flood. The promise of the rainbow guarantees it explicitly. The next judgment will be by fire, and the abyss will release its content, not to drown, but to purge. Understanding the location of the floodwater is understanding that we live on a planet designed to contain judgment. It is not a permanent home. It is a waiting room with built-in prison until the cosmic conflict is resolved. Every sip of water is involuntary communion with the most violent history that humanity has experienced. Every wave of the sea is a reminder that under the surface beauty a terrifying reality hides. The water did not disappear. It simply changed location and purpose, from instrument of judgment to instrument of containment. And when the seals finally break, that same element will return to fulfill its original function. If these secrets disturbed you, there are more hidden truths waiting to be unearthed in upcoming episodes.